Hello BookTube, welcome to my final video for 2025, and I thought because I didn't know how I was going to do a wrap up of my reading this year. I don't know what I was going to do. I thought, why not do a tag just to summarize it all and all that. And so I'm going to be doing the end of year book tag, but this is a revised version of the tag I found because it was revised by Destiny at what's the reading. And I love these questions. I think there's a lot more questions here than the tag you've seen going around. This is an old tag from like 3 years ago, so I have updated the years in this tag if you want to do it as well. But yeah, so let's start. So in terms of how many books I read this year, I don't really talk about that much when I do my wrap ups. But this year I read 249 books. And so that's why I realized I need to do a tag because I couldn't just pull them out randomly and talk about them because there's just too much I need to talk about. So anyway, let's start. So number one, the most disappointing read of the year. And there are a lot here, to be honest. I have had some flop books I read this year. I read some books that had no riz at all. Such as I did read all of Joyce this year. I done his 4 books. I done some Hemingway because why not? And it was awful. Done some Faulkner and it was awful. No riz at all. And I don't want to talk about it because I've made my thoughts very clear on them. You can look back and see my videos on them. But some books that just were disappointments. Hazardous to a Duke's Heart by Sabrina Jeffries. I've talked about it before. Coming off of the Project Duchess series, which is some of my favorite romance books ever. It was a bit of a mid step down for me, but I feel like she can bounce back in my mind. Murderlands by Carolyn Fraser was a bit of a letdown. I love the premise. I thought it was really interesting in terms of why all these serial killers like born and raised in this one like location in America, but it was a bit undercooked. And but I did like her summaries of the serial killers themselves. But I still love her novel God's Perfect Child. I think that's incredible. But Murderland was a bit of a letdown. All of Patrick White in December. I was like, I'm gonna read some Patrick White. I done all these big books. I read Voss. I done his letters and I done his plays. I probably done 8. No, not 8. Sorry, like 5 novels altogether. His debut, his most famous ones, and it was just such a letdown. I thought I would like his letters, but it sucked. He was trying. It's like he's literally trying to be, oh my god, what's his name? D.H. Lawrence, and just trying to slap an Australian like, settings and all that on it, and it just sucked. I don't like his writing. The one saving grace from me reading a lot of Patrick White was that I did get to reread his what's it called, his biography written by David Marr, which is incredible. But I actually did unhaul all of my Patrick White except that one biography of him. But yeah, White was a letdown. I also read Matilda this year by Roald Dahl. It's a reread. I never liked Matilda. I don't know why I picked it up again. And in December, I did read, because a friend told me to, The Inmate by Frida McFarlane. I've read Frida before. I'd done, that was at The Housemaid. I couldn't even get through it. It was so boring for me. That was years ago, and I thought, why not read The Inmate? And it was awful. It's not even like so bad. It's fun. Like, I don't know, I can't, like a romance or whatever. With thrillers, I just can't put up with bad thrillers. I can't find the fun in a bad thriller, but I know that's just me. But yeah, The Inmate sucked. Elise Silver, a new book talk romance girly. I tried. I done Wild Eyes, and Wild Card. Didn't like him at all. True History of the Kelly Gang by Peter Carey. Everyone loves this book. It's one of the most famous Australian books. I reread it and didn't like it that much. Flowers of Algernon too by Daniel Keyes. Everyone loves this book. I thought it was a really interesting premise. I do kind of wish it was published, like left as a novella rather than stretched out to a full novel. But yeah, Flowers for me was a bit of a letdown. And I also read some Barbara Cartland, which has no aura points whatsoever because she's a bit mid. 2. Underdog Book of the Year. For me, there's I put a lot here, to be honest. The Life of Captain James Cook by John C. I can't say it, Bigerhole. it was a great biography that really snuck up on me towards the end of the year, especially about James Cook, who I've never read about, but I really want to do his journals now. But yeah, an amazing biography. I also done all of the Musketeers books, the Three Musketeers by Alexander Dumas. I done all of them, even the more historical focused sequels that no one remembers, like between was it 20 years after and oh my god, The Man in the Iron Mask, like those two books in particular, or like those volumes, because they're all those last three volumes are one novel. But anyway, 20 years after, whatever it was, I can't remember the names, but I did do the Three Musketeers sequels, and I really did enjoy them. And also, I read I read all of the Brontes this year again. That was so lovely. I think a real underdog book for me was Villette. I love Shirley, but Villette just knocked me out the park. It was incredible. And so those are some underdogs for me of the year. Three, a book that was overhyped. And for me, that was Villette Vampiri. That's all I need to say. Let's move on. Four, favorite book couple or couples of the year. I picked one major couple in particular. Fletcher Pride and Beatrice Wolf from Project Duchess by Sabrina Jeffries. Iconic. They're so lovely together. And also, I read a lot of Heya this year, so just throw in every Heya romance novel too, because Heya never fails. Five, favorite main character of the year. Speaking of Heya, Phoebe from Sylvester the Wicked Uncle, probably the greatest heroine I've ever read. She just walks away from Sylvester because she's like, this is boring. And I literally love Phoebe so much. She is like who I want to, she's my goals, literally, but she's easily my favorite main character of the year. Six, and that was a reread too, so. Six, a book that surprised you. Again, late December reading, the Part of Your World series by Abby Jimenez just came out of nowhere. It's like a lovely contemporary romance trilogy. It just blew me away, and now I'm addicted. I do want to try Say You'll Remember Me. I know the sequel comes out for that next year, so I want to get to that before the sequel comes out for that series. But yeah, Abby Jimenez just came in out of nowhere and just blew me away. So yeah. Seven, new favorite author you discovered in 2025. And for me, that was Douglas Stewart. He done Shuggy Bane and Young Mungo, some of my favorite books of the year. He's kind of, if you mix, what's his name, Thomas Hardy with like A Little Life, and you like put them in a stew together, and you get him. And it's just incredible plots, pacing. I love his writing. His characters are incredible. So Douglas Stewart is easily my new favorite author. I can't wait till he writes something else, to be honest. Eight, happiest read of the year. I did read some Turgenev. I done the Sketch Hunters album, short story collection, very incredibly lovely. I also read a bit of a weird one here, but happiest reading. It was nice to read all of Dickens. I'm being honest, to have that finished off. Looking back, there are some novels that I'm really sentimental to, like obviously the Pickwick Papers, but even novels like Little Dorrit and Dombey and Son have really grown on me a bit. Like with a bit more time, I think I could reread them soon, but they're a bit long. I probably will at some point. Yeah, but Dickens is. It's weird because I didn't love every Dickens novel or like a lot of them, but it's nice to reflect on it too. I'm being a bit honest. I also, in terms of happy reads, I read The Letters of Julia Child. Julia Child's incredible, and I also read. I just finished it today. The Diaries of Helen Gardner, because they got a big reprint, and just so interesting. And Helen Gardner is such an incredibly interesting person to read about. And so that was some of my happiest books of the year. Number 9, the most frustrating book you read in 2025. And that for me was Tony Abbott's book on Australia called Australia, A History. Tony Abbott, for those who don't know, was the Prime Minister of Australia 10 years ago or whatever. Not even 10 years ago, probably a bit more. But he decided to drag his sorry, miserable writing and do an entire history of Australia, and it wasn't that good, if I'm being honest. I was excited because, we never get prime ministers talking about the history of the country, so the fact we got one at all was really fun. But oh, it was a rough book to get through. Um, it was he said the facts. I loved how he pointed out the Union history in Australia. But for me, that's just telling the facts isn't doesn't make the book good enough for me at least. And that's why a lot of reviews were like, "Oh my god, he told the history of Australia." Like that's what the book's supposed to do. But a lot of praise was about that. But for me, once it got post World War II, it all the his it just became so self-focused on him and his thoughts about certain politicians throughout the years. It is interesting to see what prime ministers Abbott really admired and some that he just didn't really talk about at all. Like obviously, he really put a lot of respect for Bob Hawke, which I found was really interesting, but completely sidestepped Keating, which I kind of thought was funny. If you know what Keating said about Tony Abbott throughout the years. And he obviously praises the ground that John Howard walks on. And after that, hearing him like go over like Rudd and Gillard, um, chaos, and then having those couple pages talk about how great his government was, while also taking slight jabs at the Albanese government currently, I thought was a bit petty. But yeah, he just let his personal biases get the best of him, and especially again after post World War II. Outside of that, it was pretty fine. You'll probably see everywhere for a while. Number 10, best adaptation of the year. I didn't watch a single adaptation this year, so I can't say anything about it. Number 11, the longest book you read this year. There's a couple contenders. I actually didn't look at the page counts, I'm being honest. The longest one I would have to be Robert Alter's translation of the Old Testament. I took the bullet and brought it. Crack. It was incredible. I loved it so much. That probably is the longest. That's like what, 3,000 pages. I read it over the course of like a month. It took me a while. What else would be the longest? I did do a reread of War and Peace. I did do the Constance Garnett translation. I love Constance Garnett. I know people hate her, but I love her Tolstoy and Dostoevsky. I think they're so lovely. And her Chekhov too. I love her translations of Chekhov. But yeah, War and Peace will be up there. I also read all the big Dickens books, Bleak House. I can't remember them now. Our Mutual Friend, maybe that'd be up there. Little Dorrit. I'm trying to remember now. City of God, I reread recently, which was incredible. Those will be some of the ones up there, but I really do think, oh my god, I can't remember names. The Robert Alter Bible would be definitely the biggest thing I read this year. 12, the shortest book you've read this year. Probably Matilda. I literally don't even know. I don't look at pages. But that's probably the shortest. Oh no, I actually did read some other short stuff. I read Where the Wild Things Are for the first time, and I done a lovely reread of The Wonky Donkey as well, which is really fun. Number 13, we're still going. Favorite covers of the year. I'm not a cover girly. I don't really look at covers. At least I don't pay attention to them as much as I feel like I really think I do. Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell for me was my favorite cover of the year. It's simple, it's dramatic, and it's just so lovely. 14, a book you haven't stopped thinking about this year. And for me, that was Haya. I read a lot of Georgia Haya. Obviously, Haya time kicked off in December, this month or whatever. So I've been thinking about that. I also read a lot of her throughout the year too, so I'm not even burned out at all by it. And I also read a lot of books on Gough Whitlam and his life, his biography, reflections on his prime ministership, and also just books about his dismissal. So Gough Whitlam has been living rent free in my mind as well this year. So those are like the main two. 15, cringiest book you've read this year. And there are a couple. Throw in any Ali Hazelwood novels. Deep End for me probably took the cake for being the worst. Or probably some problematic summer romance was pretty rough, even for Ali. So just take that with a grain of salt. I read all of Ali's stuff. I've read all of her novels. I feel so old. I remember when The Love Hypothesis came out, and that literally makes me feel prehistoric at this point. But yeah, Ali had some cringe. Elise Silver, there was some cringe there too. I couldn't. It was rough. And obviously, I think if you had to pick the one novel, for me that would be Dreamgirl Drama by Tessa Bailey. I I love Tessa Bailey. I love her sports romances. I think Tessa knows who she is, and she leans into the chaos of her spice and her characters so much. It's really entertaining and chaotic. But Dreamgirl Drama just was, even I couldn't not cringe at it. It was really cringy, if I'm being honest. 16. The unpopular book you loved this year. For me, that was my reread of Catcher in the Rye. I know people absolutely hate it. I thought it was mid when I first read it as a teen because had to read it for school, but I reread it last year and I was like, oh my god, this is so interesting and like um interest. Oh, I don't know what I'm saying. It was interesting and really unique. Like I don't think I've ever read a book like Catcher in the Rye, and I really do appreciate it. If I'm being honest, I really do. 17. What was the highest and lowest books you read this year on Goodreads? Do you agree? So I did some research, some Googling, some Goodreadsing. The lowest book ratings I read was Billy Hughes, Prime Minister and controversial founding figure of the Australian Labor Party by Arlen Hughes, which is a relative of Billy. It has a 2.62 of 13 ratings. So again, take that with a grain of salt because not many people read it. Um, it kind of does deserve its low rating. Billy Hughes, if I could manifest one book into existence, it is a big 800-page biography of Billy Hughes. He had the most insane run any politician in Australia will ever have. Responsible for the federal police. One of the most failed referendums the country has ever seen. And the longest serving politician too. So much happened. He was there before Federation, all the way back in the 1800s, and he served all the way until the 1950s, until his 90s in Parliament. There's so many lovely stories about Billy, and that book was so short. It wasn't even 200 pages, and it was boring. It really was, and Billy doesn't deserve that, if I'm being really honest. The highest rated book was Robert Alter's Old Testament translation. That has an average of 4.76 from 591 ratings, and it's incredible. It deserves. I'm amazed it has. I thought it would have more ratings, to be honest, because I see so many people have that on their shelves. That big, 3 volume, like gold and white hardcover, which I have as well. But yeah, it deserves it, if I'm being honest. It was the notes alone and his introductions. Oh my god, they were so incredible. 18 favorite quote of the year, and for me, I don't have a single quote, but I'm gonna choose an epilogue. For me, it was the second epilogue of War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Once you get past the character's epilogue, you get the second one, which is Tolstoy just just talking about all the themes of a novel, just squishing them into one epilogue, like a big conclusion thesis, and it is just incredible. That's probably the one thing that really should have. I feel like no author could have pulled that off outside of Tolstoy, but it's just an incredible reading. And again, having Constance Garnett's more lyrical English style prose with that was just, it was really lovely, and that was probably my favorite quote. Even though it's not a quote, it's just read the second epilogue of War and Peace. Just read War and Peace. 19. The book with the most unique concept, and that for me was Plantar Sapiens by Paco Calvo. It's a book about plants and how they have emotions, and because they express their emotions differently than humans, we don't take that into consideration. And it just is such an interesting concept, and it changes the way you look at plants at all. It's just so interesting. Pick it up if you haven't. It's very short, but Plantar Sapiens blew my mind. I thought it was an incredible read. 20. A book you read that you would reread, and that for me is The Fairy Queen by Edmund Spencer. I read that this year for the first time, gagged. I didn't even care for the plot, to be honest. I was just there for Spencer's writing. It was just so stunning, and oh my god, I can't even. The Fairy Queen is so fierce. It's max aura points. It's just an incredible epic poem. Oh my god, it could be one of those books like 20,000 Leagues or Augustine, where I do read every year. Oh my god, the Fairy Queen is so incredible. I know it's daunting, and it is, but once you get used to Spencer's weird not pro, sorry, like his poem, like I can't even I can't, it's just too good. 21 reading goal reflections plus 2026 reading goals. um I don't have any goals. I didn't set any goals this year. I don't set goals for next year, really, to be honest. So I don't have any for that. 2020, I'm sorry, question, the last one, question 22. After, oh my god, oh my, I can't read. After 2025 reading, what are you prioritizing in 2026 reading wise? There is a couple, to be honest. I do need to finish F. Scott Fitzgerald. I have recently hold the Penguin Modern Classics of F. Scott. So I want to do Tender as the Night, The Great Gatsby, Beautiful and the Damned, The Last Tycoon. Maybe I'll do some short stories, even though they're a bit hit and miss. So that's one of them. I feel like I would really love to read Eusebius's History of the Church again as like a lovely reread. Um, Outside of that, I actually don't know, to be honest. That's probably it for now. I would love to do a reread of A Song of Ice and Fire at some point, and that's I don't have that much planned, to be honest. And so that's pretty much what my reading is looking like for 2026 so far, outside of like hater time and all that. But yeah, that was the end of the year book tag. This is a long video, but I had a lot to talk about. And yeah, let me know what you think about the books I read this year. Yeah, so that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching BookTube, and I will see you next time.